It's Dave Johal once again for the Boxing Voice. This time, pleased to be joined by Kevin Barry. How are you, Kevin?
Dave, I'm very well, my friends. Thank you for having me on the Boxing Voice.
No, thank you for doing this in what is 9 o'clock in the morning now in New Zealand. So thank you for doing this. And there's quite a lot to talk to you about. And I know we're pressed for time because literally after this, you're going out to train Joseph Parker in training.
Exactly.
So first things first, I mean, the fight has been rescheduled again, this time to February the 27th.
Correct.
And prior to this, it was rescheduled from December the 11th. I think it was going to be a few days before December the 11th. So what's brought on the postponement and where we are now to February the 27th?
Well, look, mate, initially the fight was actually December 12 here in Auckland. Mm-hmm. And after arriving in New Zealand in the beginning of October with my son Taylor and my wife Tanya, we did the 2-week quarantine in Christchurch and then flew to Auckland and we started what was supposed to be a 7-week training camp prior to the fight on December 12th. After the 5th week, Junior Fa had to withdraw from the fight. He had an illness that was messing his blood levels up, and look, these things happen. So we were very disappointed. We were having a decent training camp, but we postponed and rescheduled the fight, and we were lucky that we could actually get it on February 27th, because here in New Zealand at the moment, you may be aware, while the rest of the world is in lockdown, New Zealand is relatively as it was in 2019. We've got the America's Cup on here in Auckland at the moment. All the cafes are full, the bars are full. Everyone is going about their day-to-day lives as per normal. So it was great for us to be able to reschedule the fight back out the Spark Arena, which holds 12,000 people. And prior to Christmas, the fight was sold out. All the corporate tables had sold first. The general admission tickets had practically all gone. And we're hoping that with the reschedule and with the interest in the fight here in New Zealand, that we will once again have a big crowd on February 27th.
Yeah, I mean, British fans over here, we know what New Zealand's like at the minute, and we can only wish for a state of normality. And over here, no doubt you've heard as well that, crowds are still not allowed in. The British Boxing Board of Control have suspended all boxing until mid-February. So we would love to get to those sort of levels. And, we wish you well on that. In regards to the actual sort of rankings, I mean, Joseph is still very highly ranked in the WBO. So again, the stakes are still very high on this. So
the stakes, Dave, the stakes could not be higher, because Joe was sitting there at the number 3 place in WBO. Junior Fa, the undefeated Junior Fa, is sitting there at number 6. So when you have number 3 fight number 6, it's quite a big fight in any organization. We know that prior to Christmas, that the number 11 Joe Joyce fought the much overhyped number 2 Daniel Dubois. And Joyce had a tremendous victory, but and he apparently from all accounts believes that he has moved to the number 2 position through beating Daniel Dubois. But Joseph Parker not only had that number 2 position before Dubois moved ahead of him, but let's remember, Joseph Parker is the former WBO world champion who defended that title twice. We have campaigned loyally with the WBO right throughout Joseph's career. That has been the sanctioning body that we have focused on, and the one that we have given terrific support to. And we expect when number 3 Joseph Parker fights number 6 Junior Fa in the WBO, that the winner of that fight will go to the number 2 position.
Yeah, I mean, Usyk as well. No doubt you've seen the news as well about the possible step aside money. So then the AJ and Fury fight could happen. Put yourself in that sort of situation. Where does, I mean, if Joseph wins convincingly and he wins in style against Junior Farr, and Usyk is still around as well, and we've got Fury and AJ fighting, where do you guys see yourself in that mix? Because there's a lot of if, buts, and maybes, isn't it? And Usyk is kind of holding on to some kind of position as well, isn't he? For that stepping aside.
Well, look, Dave, let's remember there's a lot of moving parts in the heavyweight division at the moment. And, you know, you just reported that, you know, the Usyk had been offered step-aside money right at the moment. This is the second time that Alexander Usyk has stepped aside and allowed Anthony Joshua to take a fight. Now, he stepped aside for the Pulev fight when the WBO mandatory was due. Now they're asking him, and by the way, for the Pulev fight, he was never paid any step-aside money. Now they're asking him for a second time to step aside to allow for this mega fight between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, a fight that, by the way, everyone in boxing and probably in the sporting world wants to see. But why would they ask him to step aside and not pay him for doing so? You know, there is a media storm at the moment, and there's all sorts of speculation. But what I'm being told from a source very, very close to the Usyk camp is they haven't offered him. What they've offered him is to fight for an interim WBO belt, where why should he do that when he has been sitting there in the mandatory position for, for some time now, nearly 2 years? So, look, I think we just have to wait and see what happens. As I said, everyone wants to see the Joshua Fury fight. You know, that's it'll be the first time in a long time that we've had all the belts up for grabs. But, you know, to enable that fight to happen, I think that there has to be a lot of fairness taken into consideration by the other parties who are affected by this fight.
Yeah, including, I mean, it's going to one that's going to shape the landscape, and then hopefully, you know, Joseph and yourself will get that chance as well. How is Joseph doing? Because I think in a report that I think Joseph and yourself put out there a few weeks ago, maybe even a few months ago, about, was it an elbow injury or a bicep injury Joseph had?
No, what we actually had was, we've had problems with Joe's elbows for a long time, and he has this condition that produces, you know, a lot of calcification and bone chips. Now, when Junior Farr pulled out of the fight, our December 12th fight, we used that time to get some keyhole by one of the best surgeons in the world, a specialist by the name of Dr. Craig Ball, who does a tremendous job. And anyone with less qualifications, we probably wouldn't have done it during this short time frame. But he had his right elbow taken care of on the 1st of December, and his left elbow on the 11th of December. He obviously rested it, let it recover, and we started our training camp on the 4th of January. Now, we are 2.5 weeks into an 8-week training camp. And, you know, to be completely honest, Dave, that delaying and postponement of the first fight has really played into our hands, because, you know, Joe was having some quite uncomfortable days and a lot of discomfort when he was punching. Especially with his jab. I didn't like it, but, you know, Joe had said to me on a number of occasions, if I've got one arm, I'm taking this fight with Junior Farr. You know, after what happened to us over a year ago when we were forced to withdraw from the Chisora fight, Joe swore he'd have to be incapacitated not to enter the ring, and he was very stubborn about this. So once again, I think this has played right into our hands, because now I have a fighter that is relatively pain-free. We're still working through a few little creaks in his elbows, but he's throwing a lot more punches. His output is so much better, and his right hand in particular, it was more or less permanently on an angle, and I was unable for him to straighten his right hand out when he was throwing it, because the elbow socket had partly calcified over, and so which was preventing him from straightening his arm. Well, now the right hand is going very strong, very straight, and very quick. So I'm happy that we were able to get that surgery in, but this looks like it's going to be something that we're going to be taking care of for the rest of his career, because it was 3 years ago, prior to the Anthony Joshua fight, that we had our first lot of surgery on both elbows.
Yeah, and everyone remembers that night as well, to be fair. So the other question I was going to ask you was in regards to the rematch of Dillian Whyte and Povetkin, which has been scheduled in now for March the 6th. Looking at it from your perspective, from a coach's perspective, and someone who's fought, well, Joseph Parker's fought Whyte, do you think it'll be repeat or revenge this time around?
Well, I tell you what, once again, I think we just talked about how the postponement for Joseph Parker has favoured us and helped us. I personally believe that extra time for Dillian has given him the chance to recover. When he was asking for that fight, the end of November last year, I thought it was absolutely ludicrous. And if he had taken the fight at that time, I was quietly confident that Povetkin would have done the same job on him again. You can't have such a bad knockout and then give yourself a very small window to recover and then jump back into the fire again. So the fact that Povetkin did test positive for COVID and then had a relapse once he started training again, this has pushed the fight back, as you said, now to March 6th, which I believe the biggest winner there, and the person that has helped the most, is Dillian Whyte, because it's given him a good amount of time to get over such a vicious knockout defeat.
Yeah, I mean, all being well, I take it after this, is there any ground to go back to Dillian Whyte if both parties win, or is it now just a case of you guys want to climb up the ladder and go for that world title? Would there be any?
Look, we would fight Dillian Whyte at any time, anywhere, any place, and we've said that since the first fight. Whether it's for a belt, a strip of chewing gum, we'll fight. We would fight him. We want to fight Dillian Whyte, and we've made no secret of that fact. We believe that he stole that first fight from Joe. We know that the fight was completely under control until the headbutt, and then of course at the end of the fight, when he was on his back and legless, he got out of jail again. Joe knows that he has the measure of Dillian Whyte, and that's a fight that I hope during the rest of Joseph Parker's career that we get the opportunity to avenge that loss, because that is one loss that sits very, very bitterly with both Joseph Parker and myself.
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, everyone wants to see that rematch as well, to be fair, Kevin.
Look, the first fight was such a good fight, and I believe that people do want to see it, and especially now that okay, Dillian got the win over Joe, but since then Dillian's been knocked out. It makes things not so protective. When he was sitting there in the mandatory, obviously he wasn't going to be looking at fighting anyone like Joseph Parker because it was too dangerous. Now that he's had that loss, I would love to see them revisit that fight, because it's a fight that it's an exciting fight for the boxing fans, and it's a fight that personally means a lot to Joseph Parker and myself and our team.
Yeah. In regards to like COVID testing and stuff in your part of the world now, even though you're letting crowds in and so on and so forth, what does that look like? Because over here it's really rigorous and everything else. Is it a bit more relaxed over there now?
No, it's not a bit more relaxed. It is, we don't have COVID testing at the boxing. Look, the thing is this: when you come into New Zealand, they protect the borders. Mm-hmm. New Zealand set this in place very, very early in the life of COVID, that anyone arriving into New Zealand would be quarantined for 2 weeks. During that 2-week period, you're tested twice. I believe it's the 3rd and the 11th day. And with 2 negative tests, you are released after 2 weeks to go about your business. we have no testing before the boxing. People are here in the community. We have no COVID in the community. Now, the question that you're asking, I know and have experienced a little bit of it, because the very first televised show in America after the outbreak of COVID was a show put on by Bob Arum and Top Rank. And that particular show, I had Guido Vianello fighting my Italian heavyweight. And it was such a procedure. You know, we were tested a week out. The fight was on a Tuesday. We came in on the Sunday. We were immediately taken to a private area at the MGM that the only people on that wing were the boxers, their teams, and the people working the event. You were tested, you remained in your room until the next morning when the results came back. If you had a negative test, you were allowed to mix in their boxing community. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's using hand sanitizer. You were taken out a private back entrance to go to a private dining hall. We had a whole private area for the boxing event. And this was all live on ESPN. We had a room for the medicals, a room for the meals, a room for the media. And then we had the boxing set up where there was a terrific looking room with all the ESPN lighting and branding, but an arena that I remember when we were tested the Sunday. We were also tested the Monday, and then you fought on the Tuesday. And when you went to the arena, you're in a large dressing room by yourself, your team, and one member of the commission. You wore gloves to the ring. You wore a mask to the ring. If you took your mask off, your license was suspended for 12 months. After the fight, for a start off, walking out to the arena, maybe 30 people in total, including referees, judges, some commission members, a few members of the media, and those from ESPN, 30 people in total in the room. It was very, very surreal. The restrictions were serious, but because of that, Top Rank were able to do these shows on a Tuesday and Thursday for 6 weeks. And now during that time, quite a few people tested positive for COVID. In fact, we lined up for a second fight where we'd gone through the same similar situation again, to wake up on the Monday morning to the phone ringing. And I thought, oh my God, I hope this is, because they said we will call you if there's a positive test, thinking that it was one of our team. And it was actually the guy that we were fighting. This is another fight. The guy that we were fighting had tested positive for COVID overnight. So you were immediately asked to leave the building. So, things were, very strict and very serious. And, with what we've been dealing with this COVID-19, it has to be treated that way.
Mm. And we're back to, which is excellent now. We're back to normal in New Zealand. Kevin, before I let you go, just wanted your thoughts on Deontay Wilder. Again, there's been talks this week of is he going to fight Fury? Fury saying he'll never fight him now, and he's only looking at one heavyweight. From you, is there still room in the heavyweight division for Deontay Wilder, or do you think it's going to be a difficult road back?
Well, look, obviously, the biggest piece of business for him was the third fight in the contract. There was no one that he can make as much money fighting as Tyson Fury. And obviously, with his performance in the second fight, as a warrior and a fighter, he wants to try and redeem himself and put on a better performance than he showed that night. I'm hearing that there's a very good chance that the Joshua and Fury are going to happen. I know Wilder's fighting in the courts to get that third fight, but I'm also hearing that there is a bit of a story going around at the moment that Deontay Wilder will be fighting Charles Martin for the IBF mandatory. Now, we know that Charles Martin knocked out Gerald Washington over a year ago to secure the number 2 place in the IBF. We also know that PBC and Al Heyman promote Deontay Wilder. They promote Charles Martin. They promote Andy Ruiz, who's also very high there in the IBF. But I'm hearing that there is a strong likelihood that Wilder may fight Charles Martin for the mandatory position in the IBF, which would lock him into a fight with the winner of Fury and Anthony Joshua in 2022.
It'll be interesting, that will. Kevin, look, thank you so much. And from the Boxing Voice, hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Enjoy training camp with Joe, and we wish you all the best.
Dave, thanks very much. And always a pleasure to be on with you on Boxing Voice, my friend.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
See you, bud.
Enjoy the video. Feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows. The list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.